The soft morning light filtered through the tall windows of the Blackwell family's penthouse, high above the busy streets of New York City. The view stretched for miles, showing off the city skyline like a picture in a fancy magazine. Down below, people looked tiny, rushing around like ants, while up here in the clouds, life moved at a different pace. Rosa had been cleaning this penthouse for almost 15 years now. She knew every corner, every special antique, and exactly how Mr. Blackwell liked his shirts folded. At 45, her hand showed the signs of years of hard work, but her face still lit up when she smiled, especially when talking about her son. Miguel Rosa worked for one of the richest men in America, Jonathan Blackwell. He had made billions with his tech company that made special computer programs for big businesses. The Blackwells weren't just rich. They were the kind of rich that meant they never had to look at price tags, never had to wait in lines, and never had to worry about bills. Their world was as different from Rosa's as the moon is from the earth. Most days, Rosa worked quietly and tried to stay invisible. That's what good housekeepers did. She arrived early in the morning, did her work perfectly, and left without disturbing anyone. The Blackwells barely noticed her most days, which was exactly how things were supposed to be. Today was different, though. It was Saturday, and Rosa had brought Miguel along to help with some of the heavier cleaning in rarely used rooms. At 18, Miguel was tall and lean with his father's strong features and his mother's gentle eyes. He was home from college for the weekend, a fact that made Rosa burst with pride whenever she thought about it. "Remember to stay quiet and out of the way," Rosa whispered to Miguel as they organized cleaning supplies in the service area. "Miss Lily might be home today," Miguel nodded. He'd helped his mother a few times before and understood the rules. The help stayed invisible. The help didn't speak unless spoken to. The help certainly didn't wander around admiring the artwork or touching things. "I'll clean the East Wing music room," Rosa said, handing Miguel a feather duster and special wood polish. "You can help me with the dusting and then organize those boxes of sheet music Mr. Blackwell mentioned." The East Wing was rarely used these days. Lily Blackwell, the 20-year-old daughter of Jonathan, had taken piano lessons there when she was younger, but that had ended years ago when she decided music was boring and shopping was more interesting. Now the beautiful grand piano sat mostly untouched, waiting silently for someone to bring it to life. Miguel followed his mother through the massive apartment. Every room they passed showed off more wealth than the last. Crystal chandeliers that probably cost more than their entire apartment, paintings by famous artists, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. Miguel kept his eyes down mostly, focusing on not bumping into anything that might cost more than his college tuition. The music room was at the end of a long hallway. When Rosa opened the double doors, Miguel couldn't help but let out a small gasp. The room was beautiful, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, but what caught his eye immediately was the piano, a magnificent black Steinway grand that gleamed in the morning light as if it had been waiting for this moment. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Rosa gave him a warning look. "Just dust and organize the music sheets in those boxes. Don't touch the piano." She started working on the windows, leaving Miguel to his tasks. Miguel moved carefully around the room, dusting shelves filled with music books and small statues. His eyes kept drifting back to the piano. He'd been playing since he was 4 years old, first on a small keyboard his father had found at a garage sale, then on the church piano, where the kind old priest had let him practice after services. Now he practiced on the upright piano at school whenever he could find a free moment between classes and his part-time job. But never, not once in his life, had he touched an instrument like this Steinway. He finished dusting quickly and moved to the boxes of sheet music that needed organizing. As he sorted through the pages, he recognized many of the composers: Bach, Beethoven, Chopin, Mozart. His fingers itched to play just a few notes, to know what it felt like to touch those perfect keys. "Don't even think about it," he told himself firmly. His mother needed this job. One mistake could cost her everything. The morning passed quietly as they worked. Around noon, Rosa left to prepare lunch for Mr. Blackwell, who was working in his home office. Miguel continued organizing the music, creating neat stacks by composer and difficulty level. He was so focused on his work that he didn't hear the door open. He didn't realize he wasn't alone until a voice broke the silence. "What are you doing in here?" Miguel jumped to his feet, nearly knocking over a stack of music. Standing in the doorway was Lily Blackwell. She looked like she had just woken up, wearing designer sweatpants and a silk top that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Her long blonde hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and despite having clearly just rolled out of bed, she still looked like she could be on a magazine cover. "I'm sorry, miss," Miguel said quickly, lowering his eyes respectfully. "I'm Rosa's son. I'm helping organize the sheet music." Lily walked into the room looking bored and slightly annoyed. Miguel had seen her a few times before but had never spoken to her. She rarely acknowledged the household staff. "Isn't it Saturday?" she said, checking her phone. "Ugh. All my friends canceled our shopping trip because of the rain." She glanced out the window at the gray sky, then back at Miguel, as if somehow he might be responsible for the weather ruining her plans. Miguel remained silent, unsure if she was actually speaking to him or just thinking out loud. He returned to organizing the music, hoping she would leave soon. Instead, she wandered around the room restlessly, trailing her fingers across furniture and picking things up only to put them down again. When she reached the piano, she hit a few random keys with her index finger, creating a jarring, unpleasant sound. "Do you play?" Miguel asked before he could stop himself. He immediately regretted it. Staff didn't ask personal questions. To his surprise, Lily actually answered. "I took lessons for like 8 years, she said with a shrug. "I was terrible. My teacher said I had no feeling for it." She hit another key carelessly. "Such a waste of time." Miguel nodded, not trusting himself to speak. The way she treated the beautiful instrument made his heart ache. Lily continued wandering around the room, clearly bored out of her mind. Suddenly, she turned toward him with a mischievous smile that made Miguel instantly nervous. "Hey, wait. You're organizing music, so you must know something about it." Her eyes narrowed. "Do you play?" Miguel hesitated. "A little," he admitted carefully. "Oh my God, this is perfect." Lily clapped her hands together. "I'm so bored. You have to play something for me. It'll be fun." Miguel's heart started racing. "Miss, I don't think that would be appropriate. I'm here to help my mother with cleaning." Lily rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, don't be such a downer. I'm giving you permission to play our piano. That's like a huge honor, you know." She gestured toward the instrument. "Besides, I'm dying for some entertainment. I bet you're not very good, which will make it even funnier." Miguel stood frozen, caught between his longing to touch the beautiful piano and his fear of getting his mother in trouble. "Your father is locked in his office on calls all day," Lily interrupted. "And anyway, he doesn't care what happens in this room. Nobody ever comes in here." She crossed her arms. "I'm asking you to play. It's not a big deal." The way she said it made it clear that refusing wasn't really an option. This wasn't a request. It was an order disguised as one. Miguel knew that rich people like the Blackwells were used to getting what they wanted, when they wanted it. "Just one short piece," he said quietly, hoping his mother wouldn't return too soon. Lily smiled triumphantly and perched herself on a nearby velvet chair. "This should be amusing," she said, taking out her phone. "Maybe I'll even record it to show my friends later." Miguel approached the piano slowly, his heart pounding. He adjusted the bench with hands that trembled slightly, then sat down. The keys looked like they were made of ivory. Real ivory, not the plastic of school pianos. He placed his fingers lightly on the keys, not pressing down yet, just feeling their cool smoothness beneath his fingertips. "Well?" Lily prompted impatiently. "Are you going to play or just stare at it all day?" Miguel took a deep breath. He had practiced for hours every day since he was a child. His father, before he left them, had been a pianist in Colombia, playing in hotel lobbies and restaurants. He had taught Miguel everything he knew before disappearing from their lives. Music was the only thing Miguel had left of him. "Any requests?" he asked quietly. Lily shrugged. "I don't know, something classical and difficult. Surprise me." She looked down at her phone, already losing interest. Miguel closed his eyes for a moment. If he was going to do this, if he was going to risk his mother's job by touching this piano, then he would play something worthy of the instrument, something that would make the piano sing. He placed his hands in position and began to play the opening notes of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 3. The first notes filled the room, clear and perfect. Miguel's fingers moved with practiced precision across the keys, drawing out the complex emotions of the piece. The piano responded to his touch like a living thing, producing sounds more beautiful than anything he had ever created before. He forgot about Lily. He forgot about his mother possibly walking in. He forgot about everything except the music flowing through him and out into the world through this magnificent instrument. This was what he had been born to do. This was who he truly was. What Miguel didn't see, lost as he was in the music, was how Lily's expression had changed from bored amusement to complete shock. Her phone slipped from her fingers onto the plush carpet as she stared at the boy she had thought was just the maid's son, the boy who was playing one of the most difficult piano pieces in the world with the skill of a concert pianist. The sound of the music floated through the penthouse, down hallways and through closed doors, drawing people toward it like a magnet. But Miguel noticed none of this. He simply played, his soul finally finding its voice through the beautiful Steinway in a Billionaire's unused music room. The music filled every corner of the room, flowing through the open doorway and down the hallway of the Blackwell penthouse. Miguel's fingers danced across the keys of the magnificent Steinway, his body swaying slightly with the emotion of Rachmaninoff's complex piece. He had forgotten where he was, forgotten that he was just the housekeeper's son playing a piano worth more than everything his family had ever owned. In this moment there was only the music. Lily sat frozen in her chair, her mouth slightly open in shock. This wasn't possible. The boy cleaning her family's music room couldn't possibly be playing one of the most difficult piano pieces in the world, and playing it beautifully. She had taken 8 years of lessons with the most expensive teachers in New York, and she had never come close to creating sounds like this. The piece built to a crescendo, Miguel's hands moving so quickly they almost blurred. His eyes were closed, his face transformed by the intensity of the music he was creating. He wasn't just playing the notes, he was living them, feeling them, breathing them into life. "What on earth?" a deep voice said from the doorway. Miguel's eyes snapped open, his fingers stumbling on the keys before coming to an abrupt stop. Standing in the doorway was Jonathan Blackwell himself, his normally stern face wearing an expression of surprise. Behind him stood Rosa, her face pale with fear. "Mr. Blackwell, I'm so sorry," Rosa began quickly, stepping forward. "Miguel was just playing Rachmaninoff's third piano concerto," Jonathan finished for her, his eyes fixed on Miguel. "And playing it remarkably well." Miguel stood up quickly, moving away from the piano. "I apologize, sir. Miss Lily asked me to play, but I shouldn't have." "Dad, did you hear him?" Lily interrupted, jumping up from her chair. For once she wasn't looking at her phone. "He plays like he should be on stage or something." Jonathan walked slowly into the room, looking at Miguel with new interest. "Where did you learn to play like that, young man?" Miguel glanced at his mother, who gave him a small nod, her expression still worried but slightly less fearful. "My father taught me when I was very young," Miguel said quietly. "He was a pianist, and I've had some lessons through my school's music program." "Some lessons," Jonathan repeated, raising his eyebrows. "That's not the result of some lessons. That's the result of extraordinary talent and many hours of practice." Rosa stepped forward. "Miguel practices whenever he can, sir. At school, at church, when they let him use their piano. He works very hard." Jonathan looked thoughtful. "And where do you go to school, Miguel?" Miguel hesitated before answering. "Juilliard, sir. I'm in my 2nd year of the piano performance program." Lily gasped. "Juilliard? But isn't that like the best music school in the country?" "In the world, actually," her father corrected her. "And extremely difficult to get into." He turned back to Miguel. "On scholarship, I presume?" Miguel nodded. "Yes, sir. Full merit scholarship." A heavy silence filled the room. Rosa looked at her son with a mixture of pride and anxiety. This was not how things were supposed to go today. The help was meant to remain invisible, not become the center of attention. "I should get back to work," Miguel said, breaking the uncomfortable silence. "I'm sorry for the interruption." "Nonsense," Jonathan said, waving away his apology. "I haven't heard someone play like that in person in years." He gestured toward the piano. "Please continue." Miguel looked at his mother again, uncertain. Rosa's face was a mask of professional politeness, but her eyes were wide with worry. "It's okay, Mom," he said softly. "I'll just finish the piece." "Yes, Rosa, it's fine," Jonathan assured her. "I'd like to hear your son play." His tone made it clear that this, too, was not a request but a command. Rosa nodded stiffly. "Of course, Mr. Blackwell. I'll continue with my duties in the kitchen." "Actually, I think you should stay and listen," Jonathan said, surprising everyone. It's not every day one gets to hear a performance like this. Rosa stood awkwardly by the door, clearly uncomfortable being treated as a guest rather than an employee. Lily had moved to stand near her father, looking at Miguel with newfound fascination. Jonathan sat down in one of the room's plush armchairs, gesturing for Miguel to continue. Slowly, Miguel returned to the piano bench. His hands were trembling slightly as he positioned them over the keys. He took a deep breath, trying to recapture the feeling he had just moments ago. Then he began to play again. The music rose and swelled, filling the room once more. Jonathan closed his eyes, listening intently. Even Lily seemed captivated, her phone forgotten in her hand. Rosa watched her son with tears shimmering in her eyes. When Miguel finished, the final notes hanging in the air, there was a moment of complete silence before Jonathan began to applaud. Lily joined in, her face animated with excitement. "That was incredible," Jonathan said, standing up. "Truly remarkable." Miguel ducked his head, not used to receiving praise from someone like Jonathan Blackwell. "Thank you, sir." "How long have you been at Juilliard?" Jonathan asked. "Almost 2 years now," Miguel replied. "And what are your plans after graduation?" Miguel hesitated. Dreams were dangerous things for people like him. "I hope to teach piano, sir. There's a good program in Queens that helps kids from low-income neighborhoods learn music." Jonathan frowned. "Teach with talent like yours?" "It's a practical career, sir," Miguel said carefully. "Not many concert pianists can actually make a living." Jonathan looked at him thoughtfully. Practicality is important, but so is recognizing exceptional talent. He turned to Lily. "Did you know we had a prodigy under our roof all this time?" Lily shook her head, still staring at Miguel as if seeing him for the first time. "I had no idea. I just thought it would be funny to hear him try to play." She had the grace to look embarrassed. "I didn't think he'd actually be good." Miguel didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. "Well," Jonathan said briskly, "this has certainly been an unexpected surprise." He checked his watch. "I need to get back to my conference calls, but Miguel, I'd like to continue this conversation at some point." He nodded to Rosa. "Your son has a remarkable gift." With that, he left the room, leaving an awkward silence behind him. Rosa quickly moved toward the door. "We should get back to work, Miguel," she said firmly. Lily stepped forward. "Wait," she said, sounding unsure of herself for once. "That was really amazing." She looked at Miguel with curious eyes. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" "You've been here before, right?" Miguel shrugged. "It wasn't my place to say anything," he said simply. "I was here to help my mother, not to perform." Something flickered across Lily's face. Perhaps the first hint of understanding that her world and Miguel's operated by different rules. "Well, it was incredible," she said, sounding sincere for once. "I've never heard anyone play like that in person." "Thank you, Miss Lily," Miguel said politely. "Just Lily is fine," she said, surprising both Miguel and Rosa. "I mean, you're a Juilliard student." "That's pretty impressive." Miguel nodded, unsure how to respond to the sudden change in status. Just minutes ago he had been invisible to her, just the help's son. Now she was looking at him like he was someone worth knowing. Rosa cleared her throat. "Miguel, please finish organizing those music sheets. Miss Lily, your father asked me to remind you that you have a dinner with your grandmother tonight." Lily groaned. "Ugh, I totally forgot about that." She gave Miguel another curious look before heading to the door. "I guess I'll see you around, piano guy." After she left, Rosa quickly closed the door and turned to her son. "Miguel, what were you thinking?" "Playing Mr. Blackwell's piano without permission." "Lily asked me to play," Miguel said defensively. "I didn't think I could say no." Rosa sighed, the anger draining from her face. "I know it's not your fault. But things like this, they complicate everything." She looked worried. Mr. Blackwell seemed impressed, but sometimes these rich people get ideas in their heads and then they forget about them just as quickly. "What do you mean?" "I mean, don't get your hopes up," Rosa said gently. "Mr. Blackwell might talk about your talent today, but tomorrow he'll be back to his business deals and million-dollar problems. People like us aren't really real to them. We're just passing entertainment." Miguel wanted to argue, but he knew his mother was trying to protect him. She had worked for wealthy families long enough to know how they operated. "I understand, Mom. I won't get my hopes up." Rosa patted his cheek. "You're already doing amazing things, mijo. Juilliard. Your father would be so proud." Her eyes grew sad for a moment at the mention of Miguel's father, who had left them years ago to pursue his own musical dreams, dreams that had never come true. "I know," Miguel said quietly. "Now finish up in here," Rosa said, her voice returning to its practical tone. "And no more piano playing today, even if Miss Lily asks." After his mother left, Miguel returned to organizing the sheet music, his mind racing. Despite his mother's warning, he couldn't help but feel that something important had just happened. For the first time, the Blackwells had seen him, really seen him, not as the housekeeper's son, but as a musician. His fingers still tingled from playing that magnificent piano. He carefully placed the last of the sheet music in its proper folder, stealing one last glance at the Steinway before leaving the room. Whatever happened next, he would always remember how it felt to bring music to life on those perfect keys, if only for a few brief minutes. What Miguel didn't know was that Jonathan Blackwell was already on the phone in his office, talking to an old friend who happened to be on the board of the New York Philharmonic, and Lily was in her room, searching online for information about Juilliard's piano program and the name of a certain talented student who had just changed her understanding of the invisible people who made her privileged life possible. A week passed before Miguel heard anything from the Blackwells again. He went back to his normal routine, classes at Juilliard during the day, practice sessions whenever he could squeeze them in, and his part-time job at a coffee shop near campus in the evenings. He tried to push the memory of playing that magnificent Steinway out of his mind, knowing it would probably never happen again. His mother had been unusually quiet about the whole thing. When he asked if Mr. Blackwell had mentioned anything about his playing, Rosa just shook her head. "Rich people forget quickly," she said as she prepared dinner in their small apartment kitchen. "It's better this way, mijo. No complications." But on Friday evening, while Miguel was wiping down tables at the coffee shop, his phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "Mr. Blackwell asked if you can come with me tomorrow. He wants to talk to you." Miguel stared at the message, his heart racing. Was he in trouble? Had his mother gotten in trouble because of him? Or was it possible that Jonathan Blackwell had actually been impressed by his playing? The next morning, Miguel accompanied his mother to the Blackwell penthouse. He wore the nicest clothes he had. Dark jeans without any holes and a blue button-down shirt he usually saved for recitals at school. His hands were sweaty as they rode the private elevator up to the top floor. "Remember to be respectful," Rosa reminded him as they reached the penthouse. "Mr. Blackwell is a very important man. If he offers you something, think carefully before you accept." Miguel frowned. "What do you mean? What would he offer me?" Rosa sighed. "I don't know. But rich people sometimes like to play games. They think throwing money at things makes them interesting." She squeezed his arm. "Just be careful, okay?" Before Miguel could ask more questions, the elevator doors opened. They entered the penthouse where the housekeeper on the weekend shift greeted them. "Rosa, good morning. Mr. Blackwell is waiting in his office for your son. He said you should continue with your usual Saturday duties." Rosa nodded, giving Miguel one last worried look before heading toward the kitchen. Miguel was led through the massive apartment to a part he had never seen before, Jonathan Blackwell's home office. The office was impressive, floor-to-ceiling windows with views of the city, shelves lined with books and awards, and a massive desk made of some expensive-looking dark wood. Jonathan sat behind it, typing on a computer. He looked up when Miguel entered. Miguel, thank you for coming." He gestured to a chair across from his desk. "Please, sit down." Miguel sat carefully, trying not to look as nervous as he felt. "Thank you for inviting me, sir." Jonathan closed his laptop and leaned forward, studying Miguel with interest. "I've been thinking about your performance last weekend. It was quite extraordinary." "Thank you, sir. I made some calls this week," Jonathan continued. "Spoke to a few people I know at Juilliard. Your professors have very high opinions of you. They say you're one of the most promising students they've seen in years." Miguel shifted uncomfortably. The idea of this billionaire calling his school to ask about him was unsettling. "They also mentioned something interesting," Jonathan said, his eyes still fixed on Miguel. "They said that despite your obvious talent, you've been reluctant to put yourself forward for solo performances. That you seem to prefer playing in ensembles or accompanying others." He raised an eyebrow. "Is that true?" Miguel nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. I enjoy collaborative work. But that's not the only reason, is it?" Jonathan's voice was gentler now. Your piano professor suggested that you might be holding yourself back because you're concerned about the practical aspects of a performance career. Heat rose in Miguel's cheeks. He didn't like being analyzed like this, especially by someone who knew nothing about his life or the choices he had to make. With all due respect, sir, a performance career is very difficult to achieve. Even Juilliard graduates often struggle to make a living as soloists. Teaching is a more reliable path. Jonathan leaned back in his chair, a sensible approach. But what if the practical obstacles were removed? What if you had the opportunity to be heard by the right people? Miguel's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean, sir? I have a friend on the board of the New York Philharmonic, Jonathan said casually, as if he were mentioning knowing someone at a local coffee shop. They're putting together a young artist showcase next month. After hearing you play, I gave him a call. Miguel stared at him, not quite understanding. He's arranged an audition for you, Jonathan continued, next Friday at Carnegie Hall. If you impress them, and I have no doubt you will, you'll be featured in the showcase. It's an opportunity that could open many doors for you. The words hit Miguel like a physical force. Carnegie Hall, the New York Philharmonic. These weren't just dreams. They were fantasies completely out of reach for someone like him. And yet this man, this stranger who had heard him play once, had simply picked up a phone and made it possible. I don't know what to say, sir. Say you'll do it, Jonathan replied with a small smile. Talent like yours deserves to be heard, Miguel. Miguel thought about his mother's warning. Rich people like to play games. Was that what this was? Some kind of entertainment for a bored billionaire? Or was it something else entirely? May I ask why you're doing this, sir? The question came out before he could stop himself. Jonathan looked surprised, then thoughtful. An interesting question. He was quiet for a moment. I suppose there are several reasons. I appreciate exceptional talent. I have the connections to help nurture that talent. And perhaps, he paused, perhaps I'm trying to correct an imbalance. An imbalance? The way my daughter treated you, Jonathan said bluntly. Asking you to play for fun, expecting you to be terrible. It bothered me. Lily has grown up with every advantage, every opportunity, and yet she's never developed any real appreciation for talent or hard work. He sighed. That's partly my fault, I suppose. Miguel didn't know how to respond to that. He certainly couldn't comment on how a billionaire had raised his daughter. So will you do it? Jonathan asked again. Will you audition? Before Miguel could answer, there was a knock at the door, and to his surprise, Lily walked in. She looked different today, less perfectly put together, wearing simple jeans and a sweatshirt instead of designer clothes. Oh, she said, stopping when she saw Miguel. Sorry, Dad, I didn't know you were busy. Not at all, Jonathan said. Miguel and I were just discussing an opportunity with the New York Philharmonic. Lily's eyes widened. Really? That's amazing. She seemed genuinely excited, which surprised Miguel. Are you going to do it? She asked him directly. Miguel hesitated. I'm not sure yet. It's a big opportunity, but what? Lily asked, perching on the edge of her father's desk. It's the Philharmonic. That's huge. It would mean time away from my other responsibilities, Miguel explained carefully. My classes, my job. I'd need to prepare a very challenging program for the audition. You work at that coffee place near Juilliard, right? Lily asked suddenly. I looked you up online, she added when he looked surprised. There was a picture of you on Juilliard's student spotlight page, and it mentioned where you work. Miguel nodded slowly, unsure how to feel about Lily researching him. I could help, she said, looking at her father. Dad, what if I helped Miguel prepare for the audition? He could use our piano to practice, and I could, I don't know, bring him coffee or something. Jonathan looked amused. I'm not sure Miguel needs a coffee service, Lily. Well, whatever he needs. Lily insisted. I could help somehow. She turned to Miguel. Our piano just sits there most of the time anyway. You should be using it, not me. Miguel looked between father and daughter, feeling increasingly overwhelmed. A week ago, he had been invisible to these people. Now they were offering to change his life. I need to discuss this with my mother, he said finally. Jonathan nodded. Of course. Take the weekend to think about it. He wrote something on a card and handed it to Miguel. My private number. Let me know your decision by Monday. As Miguel left the office, Lily followed him out. In the hallway, she stopped him with a light touch on his arm. Hey, I know this is weird, she said, looking genuinely uncomfortable for the first time since he'd met her. And I know you probably think I'm some spoiled rich girl who doesn't care about anyone but herself. Miguel said nothing, which seemed to confirm her suspicions. Okay, so maybe I am that girl, Lily admitted with a small laugh. But I'm trying not to be. And I really am sorry about last weekend. The way I asked you to play, it was rude. It's okay, Miguel said automatically. No, it's not, Lily insisted. I treated you like you were, I don't know, like you were there for my entertainment. And that was wrong. She looked at him directly. You're really talented, Miguel. Like, seriously amazing. And I think you should take my dad up on his offer. There was something in her eyes, a sincerity that hadn't been there before. That made Miguel wonder if she really was trying to. Change, I'll think about it, he promised. Lily smiled. Good, and the offer to practice here stands regardless. Our piano needs someone who knows what they're doing. She hesitated, then added, maybe you could even give me a few pointers sometime. Show me what I've been doing wrong all these years. Before Miguel could respond, his mother appeared from around the corner, her face tight with worry. Miguel, are you okay? She asked, looking suspiciously at Lily. I'm fine, Mom, he assured her. Mr. Blackwell made me an offer. I'll tell you about it on the way home. Lily stepped back. It was nice talking to you, Miguel, she said formally, suddenly aware of Rosa's watchful eyes. I hope you'll consider what my father suggested. As Miguel and Rosa rode the elevator down to the lobby, his mind was spinning with possibilities he had never dared to imagine before. Carnegie Hall, the New York Philharmonic, a chance to be heard by people who could open doors he had always believed were firmly closed to someone like him. What did they want? Rosa asked, her voice tense. Miguel took a deep breath and began to explain, watching his mother's expression shift from worry to disbelief, to cautious hope as the elevator descended toward the ground, carrying them back to their world, a world that suddenly seemed full of new and unexpected possibilities. The small apartment was unusually quiet that evening. Miguel sat at their tiny kitchen table across from his mother, both cradling cups of tea that had long gone cold. They had been talking for hours about Jonathan Blackwell's offer. It could be a trick, Rosa said for the third time, worry lines deepening around her eyes. Rich people sometimes. They get bored. They play with people's lives for entertainment. Miguel pushed his cup away. I don't think that's what this is, Mom. You should have seen Mr. Blackwell's face when he heard me play. He genuinely cares about music. And the daughter? What does she want? Rosa asked suspiciously. Suddenly she wants to help you? After treating you like you were nothing? Miguel sighed. I think she feels bad about how she acted. Maybe she's trying to make up for it. Rosa made a skeptical sound. People like that don't change overnight, mijo. Maybe not, Miguel agreed. But does it matter what their reasons are? This is a real opportunity, Mom. An audition with the New York Philharmonic. His voice grew more animated. Do you know how many pianists would kill for that chance? Rosa reached across the table and took her son's hand. I know how talented you are. I've always known. But I don't want to see you hurt when these people lose interest and move on to their next entertainment. Miguel squeezed her hand. What if they don't? What if this is the break we've been waiting for? His eyes shone with a hope he couldn't hide. Dad always said my playing would take me places someday. At the mention of his father, Rosa's face softened. Your father would be so proud of you, Miguel. So proud. She was quiet for a moment, lost in memories of the man who had left them years ago to chase his own musical dreams. If you want to do this, I will support you. Just protect your heart, okay? Miguel nodded, a lump forming in his throat. I will. I promise. On Monday morning, Miguel called the number Jonathan had given him. The call was brief. Just Miguel saying yes to the audition and Jonathan telling him to come to the penthouse after his classes on Tuesday to discuss the details. The next day, Miguel found himself once again in the private elevator, heading up to the Blackwell penthouse. This time his mother wasn't with him. She had her regular Tuesday cleaning job at another apartment building across town. When the doors opened, he was surprised to find Lily waiting for him instead of the usual weekend housekeeper. Hey, piano guy, she said with a grin. She looked different again today. More casual, with her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail and wearing what looked like actual workout clothes instead of the designer athleisure she'd had on before. Dad got caught in a meeting downtown, but he said I should show you to the music room and get you set up. Miguel followed her through the massive apartment, noticing how different it felt to be here as a guest rather than as the help. "So how does this work?" Lily asked as they walked. "For the audition, I mean. Do you already know what you're going to play?" "They sent the requirements yesterday," Miguel explained. "Two contrasting pieces of my choice plus a specific concerto movement they want to hear." "Sounds intense," Lily said. "Is it stuff you already know?" Miguel nodded. "The concerto is Tchaikovsky's first, which I've been working on at school. For my choice pieces, I'm thinking Chopin's Ballad No. 1 and maybe a Bach prelude and fugue." Lily looked impressed. "I recognize exactly none of those," she admitted with a laugh. 8 years of piano lessons and all I can play is a really bad version of Fur-Elise." Miguel smiled despite his nerves. There was something disarming about this new version of Lily, the one who could laugh at herself and admit she didn't know things. They reached the music room, and Miguel's heart beat faster at the sight of the magnificent Steinway. Lily must have noticed his expression because she smiled. "Go ahead," she encouraged him. "It's all yours. Dad said you can practice here whenever you want between now and the audition. He's having another keycard made for you so you can come and go." Miguel stared at her. "Really, I can just come here and practice?" Lily nodded. "Yep. Dad said to tell you we're rarely here during the day anyway. He's usually at the office and I have classes." She flopped down on one of the plush chairs nearby. "I'm studying art history at NYU," she added, as if suddenly realizing he might be curious about her life too. "That sounds interesting," Miguel said politely, though he was finding it hard to focus on conversation with the piano so close. Lily seemed to understand. "Go on," she said, gesturing to the instrument. "I know you're dying to play it again." Miguel approached the piano slowly, almost reverently. He sat down on the bench and adjusted it, then placed his hands on the keys. The cool ivory beneath his fingers felt like coming home. He began with some simple warm-up exercises, but soon lost himself in the music, working through passages of the Tchaikovsky concerto that had been giving him trouble on the less responsive pianos at school. The Steinway made everything easier. Its action was so perfect, its tone so rich and responsive that the music seemed to flow directly from his mind through his fingers, without any obstacles. He was so absorbed that he almost forgot Lily was there until he heard her quiet wow when he finished a particularly difficult passage. "Sorry," he said, stopping abruptly. "I got carried away." "Don't apologize," Lily said quickly. "It's amazing watching you play. You get this look on your face." She trailed off, seeming embarrassed. "Anyway, don't stop because of me. I can go if you want privacy." "No, it's okay," Miguel said, surprised to find he meant it. "Actually, it's good practice to have someone listening. Helps with the nerves." Lily settled back in her chair. "Then I'll be your audience." "Pretend I'm one of those serious judge people with the clipboards," Miguel laughed. "They don't actually have clipboards, but they do look pretty serious." For the next hour, Miguel practiced while Lily listened. Occasionally, she'd ask a question about a particular piece or technique, and Miguel would explain, surprised by her genuine interest. "So when is the actual audition?" she asked during a break. "Friday afternoon," Miguel replied, trying to ignore the flutter of anxiety in his stomach. "Are you nervous?" He gave her a look. "What do you think?" "I think you're going to blow them away," Lily said with unexpected sincerity. "You're like ridiculously good. I might not know much about classical music, but even I can tell that." Before Miguel could respond, they heard the apartment door open and close, followed by Jonathan's voice calling out, "In the music room, Dad," Lily called back. Jonathan appeared in the doorway a moment later, looking every inch the powerful businessman in his expensive suit. "Ah, Miguel, good. I see Lily got you settled." He set his briefcase down and loosened his tie. "How does the piano feel?" "It's incredible, sir," Miguel said honestly. "Thank you for letting me use it." Jonathan nodded. "I spoke with Anton, my friend at the Philharmonic, this morning. They're looking forward to hearing you play. This showcase is quite a big deal. There will be critics, agents, record label representatives." Miguel swallowed hard. The stakes were higher than he'd realized. "Don't look so worried," Jonathan said with a small smile. "Anton already thinks you're going to be the highlight of the program based on what I told him." "No pressure or anything," Lily muttered, giving Miguel a sympathetic look. Jonathan checked his watch. "I have some calls to make, but I wanted to drop this off." He handed Miguel a small envelope. "The key card for the building and the elevator. As Lily probably told you, You're welcome to practice here anytime. We're rarely home during weekdays. Thank you, sir. This is incredibly generous. Jonathan waved away his thanks. It's nothing. That piano needs to be played by someone who appreciates it. He gave his daughter a pointed look. Hey, I tried, Lily protested. It's not my fault I have zero musical talent. Yes, well, at least you seem to be developing an appreciation for it now, Jonathan replied. His tone was light, but there was something in his eyes, a hopeful assessment of his daughter, that made Miguel think there was more to this situation than just helping a talented young pianist. After Jonathan left, Lily sighed. He's been trying to cultivate cultural appreciation in me forever. Pretty sure I'm a disappointment in that department. I'm sure that's not true, Miguel said, though he wasn't entirely convinced. Lily shrugged. Whatever. Not everyone can be a prodigy. She looked at him curiously. How did you get so good anyway? I mean, no offense, but your mom is a housekeeper. Piano lessons aren't exactly cheap. The blunt question might have offended Miguel coming from someone else. But there was no malice in Lily's tone, just genuine curiosity. My dad was a pianist, he explained. He taught me the basics when I was really young. Then I got into a community music program for kids who couldn't afford lessons. My teachers there helped me apply to arts middle and high schools on scholarship. He ran his fingers lightly over the keys. The rest was just practice. Lots and lots of practice, will you? Where's your dad now? Lily asked. Miguel's expression closed off slightly. I don't know. He left when I was 10. Oh, Lily said softly. I'm sorry. An awkward silence fell between them. Miguel turned back to the piano, playing a quiet, melancholy Chopin nocturne without really thinking about it. My mom left too, Lily said suddenly, when I was 12. She decided being married to my dad was too boring, so she ran off with her yoga instructor. She gave a small, bitter laugh. Now she lives in Bali and sends me spiritual quotes on my birthday. Miguel stopped playing, surprised by the personal revelation. I'm sorry, he said, echoing her earlier words. Lily shrugged, but he could see the hurt behind her casual demeanor. It's whatever. Dad threw himself into work even more, and I got sent to fancy boarding schools. She looked around the massive, empty apartment. Lots of stuff, not a lot of people. You know how it is. Miguel didn't know, not really. His life had been the opposite. Not much stuff, but a mother who had worked multiple jobs to give him opportunities. A tight-knit community at church, teachers who believed in him. For all their financial struggles, he had never felt alone the way Lily clearly did in this palace in the sky. Anyway, Lily said brightly, clearly uncomfortable with having shared too much. You should keep practicing. I promised Dad I'd help you, so... Do you need water or something? Snacks? I can make a mean peanut butter sandwich. Miguel smiled at her awkward attempt to be helpful. I'm okay for now. But thanks, cool, I'll just sit over here quietly then. She pulled out her phone but didn't immediately start scrolling through it as he expected. Instead, she seemed to be watching him, waiting for the music to begin again. As Miguel turned back to the piano and lost himself once more in Tchaikovsky, he couldn't help thinking about how strange life was. A week ago, he had been invisible to the Blackwells. Now he was practicing on their priceless piano, while the billionaire's daughter, who had once seen him as nothing more than momentary entertainment, sat listening as if his music was the most interesting thing she had ever heard. He still didn't know if he could trust this sudden change in his fortunes. His mother's warnings echoed in his mind. But as his fingers danced across the keys, bringing beauty into this lonely, golden cage of an apartment, he allowed himself to hope that maybe, just maybe, his music could build a bridge between these two very different worlds. Friday arrived both too quickly and not quickly enough. Miguel woke before his alarm, his stomach tight with nerves. Today was the day, his audition with the New York Philharmonic. He had practiced for hours every day at the Blackwells' penthouse, working through each piece until his fingers knew the notes better than his mind did. Lily had been there for most of his practice sessions, sometimes sitting quietly with a book, sometimes asking questions about the music. She had even brought him lunch a couple of times, sandwiches she had made herself rather than ordering in, which seemed to be a point of pride for her. I'm learning to do normal people things, she had explained with a self-conscious laugh when he thanked her for the food. Miguel had found himself enjoying her company, though he still kept a careful emotional distance. His mother's warnings about rich people's games echoed in his mind whenever Lily was especially kind or interested in his life. Now, as he put on the one good suit he owned, bought secondhand for his Juilliard audition 2 years ago, he tried to push all thoughts of the Blackwells from his mind. Today wasn't about them. It was about the music, about his future. His mother appeared in his bedroom doorway already dressed in her work uniform. She wouldn't be able to attend the audition because of her job, a fact that had caused a rare argument between them. "You look so handsome," she said softly, "just like your father when he performed." Miguel adjusted his tie, a lump forming in his throat. "I wish you could be there." "I know, mijo." "Me too." She came into the room and straightened his collar. "But Mrs. Chen needs me today. If I miss work..." She didn't have to finish the sentence. They both knew they couldn't afford for her to lose any of her cleaning jobs. "I understand," Miguel said, trying to hide his disappointment. "You'll play beautifully," she assured him, "and you'll tell me everything tonight." Miguel nodded, wishing his mother could see him on this important day, wishing she could sit proudly in the audience the way other students' parents did. But wishes didn't pay the rent or put food on the table. "I should go," he said, checking the time. "I want to get there early." Rosa hugged him tightly. "Remember who you are," she whispered. "No matter what happens today, you are my brilliant, talented son. That's what matters." Miguel hugged her back, drawing strength from her unwavering belief in him. "Thank you, Mom." He left their small apartment and took the subway to the Blackwell building. Jonathan had offered to have his driver take Miguel to the audition, but Miguel had declined. He needed time to gather his thoughts, to center himself. When he arrived at the penthouse, he was surprised to find not only Lily waiting for him, but Jonathan as well. "There he is," Jonathan said, checking his watch. "Right on time." Lily bounced up from the couch, looking more nervous than Miguel felt. "Are you ready? Do you need to practice one more time? We have like 40 minutes before we need to leave." "We?" Miguel asked, confused. "We're coming with you," Lily explained. "For moral support." Miguel looked between them, not sure what to say. He hadn't expected either of them to attend the audition. "Unless you'd prefer to go alone," Jonathan added, seeming to sense Miguel's hesitation. "We understand if you would." "No, it's fine," Miguel said quickly. I didn't think you'd want to come." "Of course we want to come," Lily said. "I've been listening to you practice all week. I want to see the judges' faces when they hear you play." Her enthusiasm was so genuine that Miguel found himself smiling despite his nerves. "Thank you." "We should head out soon," Jonathan said, looking at his watch again. "I've arranged for the car to take us. And Miguel, I took the liberty of having something delivered for you." He gestured to a garment bag hanging near the elevator. "What is it?" Miguel asked. "Just a little something for the occasion," Jonathan replied. "No pressure to accept, of course." Miguel unzipped the bag to find an exquisite dark blue suit, clearly custom-made and likely costing more than his entire wardrobe several times over. "I can't accept this," he said immediately, thinking of his mother's warnings. "It's not a gift," Jonathan said smoothly. "Consider it an investment in your career. Presentation matters in classical music, as I'm sure you know." Miguel hesitated. His current suit was slightly too small and visibly worn at the cuffs. He knew appearance shouldn't matter. It should be all about the music, but the reality was different. "The bathroom is through there if you want to change," Lily suggested, pointing down the hall. "But really, it's up to you." After a moment's more hesitation, Miguel took the garment bag and went to change. The suit fit perfectly, of course it did. Jonathan Blackwell wouldn't settle for anything less. Looking at himself in the mirror, Miguel barely recognized the young man staring back at him. He looked like he belonged in the world of concert halls and wealthy patrons. But did he? When he emerged, both Blackwells looked pleased. "Perfect," Jonathan said with a nod. "Shall we?" The ride to Carnegie Hall was quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. Miguel ran through the pieces in his head, his fingers moving slightly on his lap as if playing an invisible piano. Lily noticed and gave him an encouraging smile but didn't interrupt his concentration. They arrived at the iconic venue, its name glowing on the marquee. Miguel had been here once before on a school trip, sitting high up in the cheap seats to hear the New York Philharmonic perform. Never had he imagined he would be here as a performer, even if it was just for an audition. Inside, they were led to a waiting area where a few other young musicians sat nervously with their instruments. A violinist was warming up in the corner, while a cellist studied his music with intense concentration. Mr. Blackwell, a distinguished-looking older man, approached them, hand extended. "So good to see you." "Anton," Jonathan greeted him warmly. "Thank you for arranging this. This is Miguel, the young man I told you about." Anton turned to Miguel with interest. "I've been looking forward to hearing you play." Jonathan doesn't often take such an interest in young artists. "It's an honor to be here, sir," Miguel said politely, trying to calm the butterflies in his stomach. "Well, we're running a bit ahead of schedule," Anton said. "Would you mind if we put you next?" Miguel nodded. "That's fine. Excellent. Follow me to the stage and we'll get you settled at the piano." Miguel turned to Lily and Jonathan. "Thank you for coming," he said, meaning it more than he had expected to. "Knock 'em dead. Piano guy," Lily said with a grin, though he could see genuine nervousness for him in her eyes. Jonathan simply nodded. "Remember what I said? You belong here." Miguel followed Anton through the corridors of Carnegie Hall, his heart pounding. The stage was set with a magnificent Steinway concert grand, even more impressive than the one in the Blackwell's penthouse. The auditorium was mostly empty, with just a small panel of judges sitting in the center section. "Whenever you're ready," Anton said, gesturing to the piano. Miguel took a deep breath and walked to the instrument. As he adjusted the bench and placed his hands on the keys, a movement in the back of the hall caught his eye. It was his mother, slipping quietly into a seat in the last row. She gave him a small wave, her eyes shining with tears and pride. Miguel felt something shift inside him. His mother was here. She had found a way to come, to be with him for this important moment. The sight of her gave him a surge of confidence and purpose. This wasn't about impressing rich people or fitting into their world. It was about the music, about the gift his father had given him, about all the sacrifices his mother had made so he could be standing on this stage today. He began to play. The Bach came first, precise, mathematical, yet full of emotion beneath its structured surface. His fingers moved with certainty, bringing out the intricate counterpoint with clarity and purpose. Then came the Chopin, passionate and stormy, his body swaying slightly with the emotional intensity of the music. Finally, the Tchaikovsky concerto movement, technically demanding but soaring with melody and drama. As he played the final notes, there was a moment of complete silence in the hall. Then unexpectedly applause broke out. The judges were actually clapping, something Miguel knew was unusual for an audition. "Extraordinary," he heard Anton say. "Absolutely extraordinary." In a daze, Miguel stood and bowed slightly, then walked off the stage. In the wings, Lily was waiting, her face glowing with excitement. "That was amazing," she practically shouted, throwing her arms around him before seeming to realize what she was doing and stepping back awkwardly. "I mean, you were really good. Really, really good." Jonathan approached more calmly, but Miguel could see he was pleased. "Well done, Miguel. I believe you've made quite an impression." Anton joined them, beaming. "Young man, I would like to officially invite you to be part of our showcase next month. And if you're interested, there might be a spot in our Young Artist Development Program as well. We should discuss it." Miguel's head was spinning. Everything was happening so fast. "Thank you, sir. That's incredible. Come to my office next week and we'll sort out the details," Anton said, clapping him on the shoulder before being called away by one of the other judges. Jonathan extended his hand. "Congratulations, Miguel. This is just the beginning for you." Miguel shook it, still somewhat in shock. "Thank you for everything, Mr. Blackwell. I don't know how to repay you." "There's nothing to repay," Jonathan said simply. "Just don't waste your gift." Lily was practically bouncing with excitement. "We should celebrate. Dad, can we take Miguel to dinner? And his mom, too." Jonathan looked amused. "I think that's an excellent idea. Miguel, would you and your mother join us?" Before Miguel could answer, Rosa appeared beside him, her eyes filled with tears of joy and pride. She had slipped out of work early, risking her job to see her son perform. "Mom," Miguel said, his voice thick with emotion. "You came." "Of course I came," Rosa replied, embracing him tightly. "I wouldn't miss this for anything in the world." Miguel introduced his mother to the Blackwells, watching carefully for any sign of condescension from them. But Jonathan greeted her with the same respect he showed to business associates, and Lily was warm and genuine. "Your son is incredible, Mrs. Santos," Lily said earnestly. You must be so proud. Rosa nodded, still holding Miguel's arm as if afraid he might float away on this cloud of success. I am, more than words can say. We were hoping you both would join us for a celebration dinner, Jonathan said. Rosa hesitated, looking at Miguel. He could read the question in her eyes. Can we trust this? Please say yes, Lily added. It would mean a lot. To both of us. There was something in her voice, a sincerity that hadn't been there when they first met, that made Miguel think perhaps his mother's warnings weren't entirely applicable here. People could change. Worlds could collide and create something new. We would be honored, Rosa said finally, her grip on Miguel's arm relaxing slightly. As they left Carnegie Hall together, the billionaire, his daughter, the housekeeper, and the pianist, Miguel thought about the strange path that had led him here. A moment of humiliation had transformed into the opportunity of a lifetime. A girl who had seen him as nothing more than brief entertainment was now looking at him with genuine respect and something that might be friendship. The future stretched before him, bright with possibilities he had never dared to imagine. But whatever came next, whether fame in concert halls or teaching music to children like himself, he would never forget where he came from, or the people who had believed in him when he was just the maid's son playing piano for fun.